Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Strategy of the Week for Friday, August the 16th of 2013. My name is Dan Misch. I'm the Director of Retirement Services for VectorVest, and I'm happy to take you through tonight's presentation, which we have titled Easy Money Still Going Strong. As outlined in tonight's views, we did already use the Easy Money strategy 2 different times in 2013, once on January the 18th and again on May the 10th. And you can see the titles for those were Easy Money Using VST and Easy Money Part 2, The Power of VST. And that VST component is a very important part of how we are selecting our stocks, and also we're using that for the time frame of holding those stocks. And you can go back and watch these presentations by searching for those dates in the VectorVest views. Essentially what we did is outlined a very simple when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell strategy. Beginning with the when to buy, we were using the green light buyer with the RT kicker up signal. For an example of that, I've moved into the VectorVest program, and you can see that yesterday, August the 15th, we did finish with a green light in the price column of the color guard, as well as we have the star next to there, which tells us that the price movement has been confirmed by the RT kicker combo timing system. So looking at a market timing graph with that timing system on there, you can see that the 5-day moving average, the green line, is above the 25-day moving average, the red line. So that MA above this MA combined with that green light in the price column tells us that we do have a signal up, and that's our opportunity to go ahead and buy some stocks. For our what to buy, we are using high VST plus YSG stocks for Canada. I've moved us over into the Unisearch tab, and in the Searches Retirement group, you can find that search here. And to the right, you can see the list of parameters. Now, there's quite a few of them for this search. The main ones being that the stock's VST must be greater than 1. And that's very important. We want to see that we have a good combination of fundamentals and timing going for this stock at the time we're going to purchase it. Secondly, the relative safety must be at least 1 as well, so we're looking for good quality stocks. The earnings growth rate must be greater than or equal to 10%. And finally, the stock's YSG, its dividend yield, safety, and growth, must also be at least 1. So all the stocks that meet those parameters are going to give you a good quality list to deal with. On top of that, all of those stocks are going to be sorted by the VST plus YSG, just bringing up to the top of the list the ones that give you the best chance for capital appreciation and income. So running the search as of right now, and it's about noon on Friday, you can see the stocks at the top of the list, and by scrolling over a bit to the right, we can see that of course the relative safeties are all above 1, the VSTs are all well above 1, the earnings growth rate at least 10%, and a little further to the right we can get that combination of dividend yield, safety, and growth looking at the YSG. Now ordinarily, the when to sell when you're following the green light buyer RT kicker signal is to sell everything on the issue of a confirmed down. In this strategy, we are simply going to use a VST of less than 1 for our stop criteria, and that will be the only reason that tells us to exit a position. So if you were following this strategy as of today, you could make your selection from the list below, and you would hang on to any of these positions as long as this combination of fundamentals and timing keeps the overall composite score of VST up above 1. So now we moved into the backtester. We're going to take a quick look at how some of these results have worked for us over the various time frames, and then we will dig a little bit deeper into some of the positions held in these portfolios. So the first one we ran for you in January of 2013 had a 1-year look back, so January of 12 to January of 13. We had a roughly 25% overall gain, Commissions were only at $69, and we had a very manageable drawdown of 5.76%. And the graph down below speaks for itself. We were rising very nicely over the course of that year. And at the time of that recording, this portfolio held 5 positions. 4 of the 5 that it was holding, it had purchased 1 year ago, back in January of 2012. For Easy Money Part 2, we just updated the same strategy through May the 9th of that year, and our gains had gone up to 41%. Commissions were still very low at $89. Our drawdown had not increased whatsoever. And again, the graph down below speaks for itself that we were just on a nice rising pattern making money. At that time, we still had 3 of those original holdings purchased in 2012, an additional one from June, and 1 purchase in January of this year. And so bringing that all the way to the current time frame has diminished our returns slightly, but we're still holding on to 37 1/3%, and that's over the past year and a half. Our commissions have gone up by $20, so we've had 2 more trades in there. And that 37% over the year and a half gives us an annual rate of return of 23.7%. And while the drawdown has slightly increased, still very manageable at 7.75%. And looking at those current holdings, we are now still holding on to 2 of those positions all the way from January of 2012. We still have the position from June of 2012. The purchase in January we just looked at, and we do have 1 more recent purchase just done in July last month. In looking down below at these 2 long-term holdings, you can see that they're clearly the reason that this portfolio has been held up so much, with a 94% and a 78% gain overall. So let's go down here now and look at these current holdings. And what I'm going to do is open up a graph of all 5 of the stocks that we have in the portfolio. Now this first stock we're looking at is Dollarama. And on the top of the graph we have the price of Dollarama. And on the bottom in blue we have the VST. And I have this set from the original purchase date of January the 19th, 2012 all the way to the current time frame. And you can see that over that time frame the price has been rising very nicely for us. And while the VST has moved up to some peaks and valleys, it has remained above 1 the whole time, allowing us to keep it in the portfolio and continue to participate with that rising price pattern. As a comparison, I can click on this upward window and choose to look at 2 different graphs side by side. And by looking at a market timing graph, which does show the price of the VectorVest composite, over the last 1.5 years, you can see the gyrations that the market has gone through, while this stock has, again, proven to give us some steady gains. It's a very similar story with the next stock in the list, which is ATD. The price has risen very sharply. The VST has hit some peaks and valleys, but has remained above 1 and is still above 1, giving us that chance to stay in the stock while the market did what it did. The next stock in the list is GRT, and this is one that we purchased in June of 2012, which is about right here. So I'm going to zoom us over. So we're looking at the past 1 year and 2 months. And by shortening down our market timing graph, we can do that same comparison to see the difference between the price of the stock and the overall market performance. Now this GRT stock has been the most volatile one that we have currently in the portfolio. It is still holding on to a slight gain. However, the VST has been on this downward trend. WestJet was the next stock that we purchased, and we bought that about right in the middle here in January of 2013. Also has gone on some fluctuations, holding about flat with our original purchase date, and the VST, while getting very close to crossing down below 1, has stayed above and is now back up above 1.3. And here's the market timing graph on the right. The closer we zoom in on this picture, the more we can see the recent drawdowns that the market has taken us through. And the most recent purchase is Magna, which we did just buy about a month ago. And so we can zoom in and see that yes, that stock has been rising very nicely. And this time, the market has been rising as well. By changing this over to the watch list view, ideally what we want with our portfolio is to own stocks that are 3-time winners with an RV, RS, and RT all above 1. That will of course lead to that VST above 1. And of these 5 current holdings, all of them fit that bill, except for GRT, which the relative safety has dropped down to 0.98 on that one stock. The earnings growth rate still very strong. All of these stocks are dividend payers and have an average dividend yield of roughly 2% from this basket of 5 stocks. So what we can also do is take a look at the upcoming dividend dates. And this is like everything else in VectorVest. You can change your time frames. So I'm just going to look back from, say, July of this year through the current time frame, so a little bit around a month. And you can see when we had dividend execution dates as well as dividend payout dates. The most recent being that stock GRT, which did just pay us yesterday on August the 15th. So when looking back at this portfolio view, it's easy to say that DOL and ATD.B are the stocks that are really holding up this portfolio with those fantastic gains that they've had since we purchased them. And remember, we got back into them on January the 19th of 2012. Well, by changing the date in the Unisearch back to January 19th of 2012, you're going to see Dollarama and ATD were right there in that top 5 list of stocks. By opening the calendar, and you can look at the quick dates, and I'm going to put this on the Greenlight Buyer RT Kicker, you'll see that the 19th was a green light day because it followed a green light. The 20th was also a green light. The 23rd would have been as well. Before the 24th, it went neutral. The 25th back to green, neutral, green, neutral. You see how that works. And on the 31st, once again, we had a green light. So running the search on that day, you're going to see Dollarama and ATD show up in the list. And that just tells us we've had more than the one opportunity that we purchased the stocks on to get into these stocks that have risen. As you go through the year, you'll see all the green lights indicated. And through March, April, and May, there was no signals whatsoever. Before we get back to June, the first one came on June the 18th of 2012. And running the search on that day, the top 2 stocks are Dollarama and ATD. So looking back at our back test now, once again, it's a beautiful looking graph. We've just shown that you've had multiple chances to get into some of these stocks. And because of the strict parameters of the search, there are going to be the same stocks that show up from time to time. And that's not such a bad thing since we're fishing in such a quality pond. One final piece I want to show you, when we did the original strategy of the week back in January, we did run a longer term back test as well that we just started in the beginning of January in 2009. So it gave us 4, now we're looking at about 4.5 years. Using the exact same setup, just look at the graph down below. Over the past 4.5 years, this thing has gone up a lot more than it's gone down, giving us total gains of 65%. That's 65%, or $65,000. We earned that at a cost of only $228 in commissions. And our drawdown did increase up to 16.6%. That came in this most recent time frame here, beginning in May. And this portfolio also has long-term holdings in it. 2 of them were purchased in 2009, with the remainder just coming in those last couple signals this year. And if you want to see some stocks with nice looking graphs, we'll take a look at those 2 long-term holdings. And I'll take the time frame all the way back to where we're including 2009. There's symbol ENB, which you can see on the graph below. The VST has remained above 1 while that stock has continued to charge forward. Certainly many chances to go ahead and purchase that stock. And the next one was Metro, MRU. Very similar story. Continually rising price pattern and a strong VST, still up at an excellent level of 1.4. So once again, we will use this Greenlight Buyer RT Kicker for when to buy. We will use high VST YSG stocks for Canada as our what to buy. And a VST of less than 1 will tell us when to sell. Thank you for joining us this week. If you do have questions about tonight's presentation or anything as it pertains to VectorVest, please call the number on your screen.